Former Vice President Dick Cheney recently came out and endorsed Kamala Harris, or he did it in a statement, I should say. So the reactions from Trump supporters are interesting. We'll get to those in just a sec, but let's talk about this statement. Cheney writes, "In our nation's 248-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He can never be trusted with power again. As citizens, we each have a duty to put country above partisanship, to defend our Constitution. That is why I will be casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris." Okay, so, he's making some legitimate points. You can't trust someone who tries to overthrow an election with power. You don't want to get that type of person in power again, especially given that he won't be running for another term. He's got one term left. He can do whatever he wants without having to worry about the fear of facing a backlash during his re-election. So what have Trump supporters said about this? Well, their reactions are pretty typical, pretty unsurprising. They're going out there and saying, this is proof that Kamala Harris is a neoconservative. Look at this. She's got the George W. Bush acolytes on her side. Meanwhile, our boy Donald Trump, who's a Republican, just like those people, the people who are endorsing Kamala Harris, and definitely not a neocon. Donald Trump is anti-war. He cares about the American people. He doesn't want to send our kids to war. He's not a neoconservative at all, and he wasn't a neocon during his presidency. Well, first of all, they didn't even address the merits of what Cheney said. And second of all, Cheney didn't even address foreign policy in this statement at all. I would imagine that he has heavy foreign policy disagreements with both Harris and Trump, and in terms of how Trump's campaigning and in terms of how Trump's administration went. In fact, he did criticize Trump. Now, Trump obviously is less hawkish than Dick Cheney on foreign policy, but so is Kamala Harris. But for Trump supporters to step out and dance about how, oh, look, this is proof that Harris is a neocon, well, let's not forget Donald Trump assassinated General Qasem Soleimani randomly, nearly starting World War III. He did a Syria strike in 2017, a strike on Syria on Assad, April 2017. This was his first major neocon moment. He approved a military raid that killed an 8-year-old American girl. And nowadays, what's he doing? He's talking about going to war with Mexico over the cartels. And barely anybody on the right is even talking about that. Barely anybody on the left really is. But yeah, this is like something that is like just straight out of the neocon playbook. If anything, you could argue it's even worse because it's like Mexico's border is right by ours. We're going to go to war with someone who's on the same continent as us. That's very concerning. So he's a neocon. Trump is, albeit of a softer variety than Dick Cheney. And note how disingenuous it is for people to come out there and pretend that, oh, this is proof that Harris is a neocon. Cheney did not praise Harris for her foreign policy. Cheney recognizes that both of these candidates are bad in his view. Now, you might view them both as bad too. That's fine. But you have to recognize that one of them tried to overthrow the last election and the other one did not. One of them is saying that if he loses, he will try to overthrow the election again. He will just insist that there is fraud. And the other candidate is doing no such thing. This is a pretty simple choice. It's a choice between democracy and basically obsession with power. Donald Trump does not care about democracy, does not care about principles. He just pursues whatever is best for him, and that is clear to even hardcore neocons like Dick Cheney. You can have all of the criticisms that you want about Harris, about Trump, but you have to at least acknowledge the rhetoric and the way that they affect this country. This whole denying elections thing was not even a thing before Donald Trump became president in 2020. This was not something that was routinely going on. Obviously, we had Democrats who were very resentful about the 2016 election, who called Trump an illegitimate president who was installed by Putin, but Hillary Clinton conceded. We did not have Democrats out there insisting that there was fraud and trying to overturn the election. This is something that is uniquely Trumpian. And so Dick Cheney, for all his flaws, recognized that in this statement, and he's endorsing Kamala Harris because of that. This has nothing to do with foreign policy. It has nothing to do with who's a neocon and who's not. And you know what? If you want to play that game, the KKK has endorsed Donald Trump's campaign before. Did Donald Trump implement the KKK in America? Did Donald Trump implement the KKK's vision in America? Is he the KKK administration? Would conservatives admit that? No, they wouldn't. Who someone endorses or who someone is endorsed by does not reflect who they are as a candidate and who their administration will have and what their administration will instill within the country. This is a total reach on the part of the Trump supporters, and they know it. They're pretty nervous because their candidate is losing. So if you liked this video, if you found it helpful, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. I really do appreciate it, and I look forward to speaking to you in the next video. Thank you.